Hi everyone. This tutorial is for the car body from the Automoblox vehicle. We'll be using Inventor to recreate a 3D model of that center part of the toy. So the first thing you're going to need is this 5.2b activity. So we'll open that. And there are two documents we can look at. The first one here is the Automoblox T9 dimension drawings. So we definitely need that open. And it'll open in Word, so we'll be able to refer back to that continuously. Then I'm going to go to Resources. And I like having the activity document open as well. For reference, I don't know that we're going to do the windshield, but there is a video I attached here for creating the windshield sketch, which is pretty tricky. But that's for later. Word is opening, hopefully. So down here at the bottom, you'll have your two Word documents or PDFs, either one. So these are the dimension drawing sheets, and this is the activity. So if I scroll through the activity, it just kind of walks you through some of the steps. So this is what we're going to create, but we're going to get rid of, we're not going to use the plastic insert here. We are just going to create the wooden body. So it does give you pictures along the way. It kind of tells you some of the steps to do, but honestly, it's not very thorough. So we're going to make sure we go this route and look at the dimension drawing sheets. And here we see all of the dimensions are put on a few of these isometric views. I'm going to zoom in so we can read them a little bit better. They are still difficult to read. That's a radius of 0.2. Another radius of 0.2, that's a radius of 0.3, 3.17, 2.40, 0.57, 0.93, 1.53, 0.82, and so on. So I'll walk you through that, making those dimensions. One of the things you noticed, I hope, when we did one of the previous activities, is the cutout here, the slot that was cut out here on the front, is a little different size than the one cut out on the back. So we can't just copy and paste. We have to sketch them separately. Okay, let's get started with Inventor. So I'm creating a new part. Actually what I want to do first is I want to create a project. All of my Automoblox parts should go in the same project folder. So when you open this, it's going to give you the default project first. But I would like to do a new project. So click on New down here at the bottom. New single user project. And then we're going to change the project name. I'm going to call this 2020 Automoblox. And I'm going to click Finish. Should we create it? Yes. So you see the check mark here beside 2020 Automoblox. That means that is my active project folder. That's what I want. So here, once again, we see that it's an active project folder. That's fine. So now we're going to go to New, and we're going to say, New what? Well, we're going to create a new part. So we've got New. It says it's not responding. Give it a second. Hopefully it'll respond. There we go. We're going to go to standard.ipt. IPT stands for Inventor Part. So this is the standard Inventor Part file. And we're going to click. You can double click on it, or we can click Create. We're 5 minutes into the video, and we're just now starting the construction process. That's okay. You have to know where to find the resources so that you can actually begin your sketching. We're loading. So if we think about the wooden block, it's mostly a rectangle that has been extruded. And once you have a rectangular block that's been extruded, then it's just a matter of cutting a few holes, rounding off a few edges or corners, using the fillets, and there are actually two little racing stripes, one on either side, which is just a groove that was cut. And I'm going to show you how to do all of those. But to start with, we need to know some of the dimensions, but also we're dealing with a rectangle. So I'm simply going to use my rectangle tool to sketch a rectangle. All it takes is 2 clicks. You click once, then move the mouse, and click again, and you've drawn a rectangle. We're going to go back to the Word document here at the bottom, try and pull some measurements. So here we see the overall width of the part is 3.17. And then if we look here, the height, well, let's see, which one are we doing? I think we're going to do it this way. So the overall width is 3.17. The overall height is 3.17. So those two dimensions are the same. That sounds like a square to me. So we'll go back to Inventor, and we'll make this dimension 3.17. Where'd it go? Well, you have to zoom out because it got too big for the screen. And now we're going to make this one also 3.17. And that's the square we start with. I'm going to finish sketch. That's all I did. I drew a square. Now if we go back to the Word document, we're going to extrude this square from so imagine it's at the bottom laying flat, and we're going to extrude it upward. So if we need the total height, that's this right here. That's the total height for the part, 1.53. So in Inventor, we're going to extrude this rectangle. Yep, let it select it. Right now it's extruding 1 inch, but I think it was 1.53. Click OK. And there is my rectangular wooden block. Now, that's not the same position that the Word document has it in. So it's laid flat here. So I think I want to do that in Inventor so that we don't get lost. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to start with this front face. And I'm going to click on my cube and rotate it flat. So I can click on an edge to rotate it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click an arrow and it's going to rotate one full face. And now, if we look at it, the block is laid flat. And that's what I want. So this now is, according to Inventor, this is now the front of the block. I would argue that this should be the front view, but I don't know that it's going to matter a whole lot other than I like to have it set. We can leave the front view that way, but this needs to be our home. So I'm going to right click on the little house up here by the rotation cube, right click on that house, and I want to set the current view as home, fixed distance, and click. Now, every time I get lost, every time I make changes and I rotate my block and I don't like it, if I hover, I can find the house and I click on it and it takes me back to my front view, or my home view, I should say. So now we're going to have to cut out a piece here, we're going to cut out a piece here, and then we're going to cut out a piece on the back side. So let's go ahead and make this first top cut here. This is probably the harder one. So I need a rectangle. And that rectangle is going to be, and we have to follow these extension lines so we can read it, 0.159 in height, or depth, I guess, for the rectangle. And then this way is 1.98. So I need 1.98 by 1.59. So we're going to sketch that. So how do we do a sketch when we've already got an extrusion? It's actually pretty simple. Imagine you have a wooden block and now you want to sketch out on the surface. You might grab a pencil and you might draw what you want to cut out. Same idea. So here we're going to put a sketch. I can either use sketch button or I can right click on the surface and put new sketch. And now I've got a new sketch on this surface. I'm just going to draw a rectangle again, something like that. Nothing fancy. And now I'm going to put some dimensions on this rectangle. So let's go back and put some dimensions. Let's look at them again. First thing we need to know is we need to know the depth of the rectangle, 1.59. We have the width of 1.98, but we also have this front line, its distance from the front edge. So the distance here is important because if we measure this distance here and we measure this distance here, they are not the same. This rectangle is not centered front to back. It is centered left to right. So we need to make those adjustments. So I think that is 0.82. I'll have to double check that. Once I draw it, I'll know. I'll get a good feel for whether that's correct or not. So I'm going to go from here to here. And it's okay if you put your number in the part, that's fine. Because those numbers disappear once we extrude. And then the width here was 1.59. This dimension here was 1.98. Now I need to know how wide this is. It's supposed to be centered. So let's see if they give us a dimension for that. It looks like I can't tell if that's a 0.5 or a 0.6, but I'm going to do some simple math. If I know the total width is 3.17, and then I know the width of the block is 1.98, that's almost 2. So it's going to be 1.19, which is 1.2 basically. So yeah, this should be 0.6, half of 1.2. And it might be a millimeter off. I think this was rounded, so this is probably 0.595, but we'll leave it at 0.6 so as not to confuse everyone. So we're going to dimension from here to here. It's 0.6. So now my rectangle size is correct. My location horizontally and vertically are correct. So this rectangle is done, but it should not be a sharp edge rectangle. If we go back and look, those are rounds. Those are fillets, rather. Those have been rounded off, filled in, if you will. It says the fillet is 0.2. So I'm going to fillet this rectangle, and you can do this when it's a 3D model, but you can also do your fillets in a 2D sketch. And there's the fillet for the 2D sketch. So I'm going to click on fillet, and it's supposed to be 0.2. I'm going to change that number. Then I'm going to click on each corner. And you'll notice how it's giving me the little arc. There we go. There. There. And there. So those are proper. There's the number 0.2. And now we can finish sketch. So now imagine what they're going to do in the machine shop. Once I've drawn that, they're going to take a router or take some tool and they're going to cut this out. So let's see. What's the depth? How deep should it go? There's my depth measurement. 1.07. So I'm going to extrude, and this is a new one for you. Notice Inventor automatically assumes you want to add material. But in this case, we want to remove material. So we have to change this from an extrusion to a cut. There's a difference. So let's see. Here is a join, meaning we're adding material. Here is a cut. So we want to change this to a cut. And notice it's automatically cutting all the way through. You can see it's a hole that goes all the way through the part. We don't want it to go all the way through. We need it to have a little bit of a bottom to it. So the dimension should be 1.07. And now it doesn't go all the way through. You can see the sort of the ghost image. Here, let's go back to this. You can see that it doesn't go all the way through the part. So we're going to click OK. And that is the passenger compartment. That's where the people sit inside the Automoblox vehicle. All right, that's it for this video. There'll be a second video to show you how to cut the front and the back. You can try it on your own now that you have a decent idea. You could do your measurements with your sketch on the front. It's the exact same process that we did on top here. We're just going to make a rectangle on the front and a different one on the back. And we're going to extrude cut those two rectangles out. Okay, tune in for the next video.